How's it going, guys? John here. This is the Basic Expert, and we are continuing our deep dive into Basic Fantasy, the current game that I'm running for my friends, my group of players, in our weekly game. I really love it. Again, it's a free game. PDF is free. The PDF I'm looking at right now is free on the Basic Fantasy website right here in the download section. Link will be in the video description. Check it out. You get all kinds of other free stuff here as well in PDF form. It's fantastic. This is why I play this game, and why I love it. We're continuing our discussion in the encounter section. Before we get too far into that, I just want to give my own stuff a shout out here. If you like the content that I create, please check out my Subscribe Star. I have various tiers. At $1, you get a map a month, or a map a week as far as dungeon maps are concerned. And at $3 and up, you get an adventure a month. That's what you get a month. That's all the plug I will do for that. If you like my content, go check it out. So, we're talking about Basic Fantasy. Oh, and I also want to thank you all for the well wishes as far as me being sick. I don't know what I had. My daughter has it now. She was puking her brains out yesterday. I am recording this on Monday, the 25th of April here. My daughter was puking her brains out. It was puke all over our white carpets in our house. And no, we didn't pick the white carpet. It's just what was here when we moved in. So that was a fun yesterday, and she's feeling better today. She's doing well, and I'm hoping to stream later tonight. But if I duck out early or something like that, it's because my kid's sick and she needs, and dad is needed. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's talk about Basic Fantasy, one of my favorite retro clones. And one of the most easily accessible retro clones out there. You have no excuse. So, in the last video, we talked a little bit about combat, damage, all these sorts of things. Missile attacks, attack bonuses, armor class, all these sorts of things. These are all things because this is a kind of a more modern take on the OSR, on the old school BX rule set. You don't have to worry about THAC0. You don't have to worry about attack matrices. It's meet or beat the target's AC in order to connect to hit. Let's talk about energy drain, healing, and rest, and finish out the rest of this encounter section. And then we'll call this video done, and we'll move on, and we'll talk about monster stat blocks in a coming video. So, energy drain. So some creatures out there within Basic Fantasy and within Old School have this energy drain function, and this is something that I'm not sure if it's in 5th edition. I don't recall seeing it in there. I'd be surprised if it was. I think it's cool if it is, because it is something that makes monsters terrifying to players. So let's read it. Sometimes characters are exposed to energy drain from undead or evil magic. Such energy drain is manifested in the form of negative levels. For each negative level a victim receives, he or she suffers a semi-permanent loss of 1 hit die worth of hit points, a penalty of -1 on all attack and saving throws, and any other roll made on 1d20, and a 5% to any percentile roll such as Thieves' abilities. In addition, an affected spellcaster loses access to one of his or her highest level spell slots. You can already tell this is getting brutal, depending on how many levels get drained from a character. The victim may or may not be allowed a saving throw to resist the effect, depending on the specific monster type or the magic being used. If the creature's hit points are reduced to 0 or less by means of energy drain, the victim is immediately killed. And I think that for me, because this is something magical, this is something, it's a specific ability. My ruling with this is that this bypasses my negative hit points rule. You don't get negative hit points with this. If you get drained below 0, you're dead. I feel like that needs to be in place in order to make the creatures and monsters and the undead and the magic that uses this ability, in order to make it like actually dangerous and deadly and scary to players. You want people to see them face the white or the whatever undead creature they're facing and be like, holy crap, we better be careful, don't go near it. You know, I like that kind of play as opposed to onward friends, let's slay this thing. They should be a little scared in my opinion. Negative levels may be removed by magic such as the restoration spell. When a negative level is removed, divide the total number of hit points lost by the number of negative levels, rounding normally, to determine how many hit points are restored. And then, thankfully, they give us an example here. For example, a character suffers 3 negative levels of energy drain. The hit point losses rolled were 6, 5, and 2, for a total of 13 points lost. The first negative level removed restores 13 divided by 3, which equals 4.33 hit points, which is rounded to an even 4. Now the character has 2 negative levels and has lost 9 hit points. The next time a negative level is removed, the character recovers 9 divided by 2, which equals 4.5 hit points, which is rounded to an even 5. We round up. Now the character is 1 negative level and 4 hit points lost. Removal of the last negative level will restore the remaining 4 hit points. Those who have suffered energy drain generally have a gaunt and haggard look about them, noticeable by observant characters. I don't know. It's a terrifying ability that some of these undead creatures have, and I think vampires have them too in basic fantasy. So it's I like that. It makes them feel deadly and dangerous. It makes clerics useful. It makes clerics turn undead ability desirable. So, and it makes some of these spells like restoration and whatnot really desirable to know as well. Let's talk about healing and rest, because I use this skill. I do not use this method of you've been stabbed multiple times and then you just sleep for 8 hours and all of a sudden you're okay. So characters recover 1 hit point of damage every day, provided that normal sleep is possible. Characters who choose full bed rest regain an additional hit point each evening. So if you just get normal rest, you've been out adventuring, you got kind of jacked up, you come back into town, you rent a room at the inn, and you're like, I need to rest for a couple days, I lost 6 hit points. If you're just going to do normal rest where you sleep during the night, get up during the day, go about your business in town, you're going to recover. It's going to take you 6 days to recover those 6 hit points you lost out while adventuring. Or it could take you 3 days if you decide to, like, I'm pretty beat up, let's just lay in bed and recover. Normal characters require 6 hours of sleep for every 24. Subtract from this number of hours the character's constitution bonus. So a character with 18 constitution only needs 3 hours of sleep per night, and a character with 3 constitution needs 9 hours. Note that these figures are minimums. Given a choice, most characters would prefer to sleep 2 or more hours longer. So, I know as a dad, I would like 2 extra hours every day to sleep, but you just don't get it. Not in that adventure. Characters who get less than the required amount of sleep suffer a -1 penalty to all attack rolls and saving throws, as well as not receiving any hit points of healing. So you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to heal, and it's going to affect you in combat. For each additional night where sufficient sleep is not received, the penalty becomes 1 point worse. So it's going to get a lot worse, and you're still not recovering your hit points. Regardless of how long the character has gone without adequate sleep, the normal amount of sleep will remove these penalties. So, constitution point losses. This is something that can happen. Any character who has lost constitution points temporarily, such as due to a certain disease, may regain them with normal rest, like hit points. The rate of recovery is 1 point per day awarded each morning when the character awakens from a normal night's sleep. If more than 1 constitution point was lost, the character must make a save versus death ray without adjustment to regain the final hit point. Failure results in a permanent loss of that hit point. So let's say you get a disease and it removes 5 constitution points. You can sit and rest and you'll recover 1 hit point a day. So 4 of those hit points are guaranteed that you lost. 4 of those constitution points, are guaranteed no matter what. But that 5th one, on that 5th day, you got to do a save versus death ray. And if you fail, well, that point is permanent. And I kind of like that. It kind of fits in with like the grittier kind of way of playing. Sometimes you get sick, you get these diseases, and like I just got over being sick, and I don't always feel the same for a good long time after that. Like I'm still achy right now, my back still hurts a little bit, and hips hurt a little bit from the sickness that I had. So you're never quite like 100%. You're never quite where you were before. And I'm okay with that. Well, I'm not okay with feeling that way in real life, but I'm okay with that in the rules. Falling damage, 1d6 per 10 feet of falling. Deafness and blindness. A deafened creature can react only to what it can see or feel, is surprised on a 1 to 3 on a d6, and suffers a -1 penalty to its initiative rolls. Blind creature is surprised on a 1 to 4. On 1d6, suffers a -4 penalty to its attack rolls, a -4 penalty to its armor class, and a -2 penalty to its initiative rolls. These effects are modified when dealing with monsters having unusual sensory abilities. For example, bats may be affected by deafness as if blinded instead. These penalties are for characters or creatures recently handicapped. Those who are normally blind or deaf may have reduced penalties at the GM's option. So, you're not used to being blind, you're not used to being deaf. You're probably going to have a lot of these penalties. It could be reduced, or maybe removed if you want. You want to do your Zatoichi, the blind swordsman kind of thing, because you're into that. It's your game, do what you want. But that would probably be a very special exception in regards to ruling by the game master, if you are a player watching this and you like that idea. Attacking a vehicle. Attack against vehicles such as wagons or ships are made against armor class 11. Each vehicle has listed hardness and hit point values. We went over that. Roll damage against the vehicle and then reduce the damage by the hardness value. Any excess damage is applied to the vehicle. So, there's a chance like you're going to try and whack the ship with your sword. It's probably not going to do anything. You probably need like a harpoon or a cannon, something with a little more oomph behind it in order to cause some damage to a ship. But maybe smashing a wagon with a hammer, with a warhammer, or with a mace, that has a chance of maybe causing a little more damage. Repairing a vehicle. Damage done to a vehicle may be restored at a rate of 1d4 hit points per crew member per hour of labor. However, a vehicle can only be restored to 90% of its maximum hit points by field repairs. A damaged ship must be put into dry dock and repaired by a shipwright and his crew, while a wagon, cart, or chariot will require a wagon maker to repair them. Costs for such repairs are left to the game master to decide. I really don't like that. I don't like making decisions like that. Tell me how much that stuff costs. Probably just look up historical costs for those sorts of things. Let's go on here to saving throws. I think so. I talk a lot about basic fantasy, and I talk a lot about it as a way of getting maybe your 5e people to play an old school style game, different game that's going to be different to them, but familiar as well. We went over combat. And that is intimately familiar to anyone that's played 5e or 4e or 3rd. Anything where armor class is ascending is going to it's going to be more familiar to them than trying to get them to understand THAC0. Although I don't think, again, THAC0 is very complicated, and I don't think attack matrices are all that complex. But some people are intimidated by them, and they are not even willing to try it because it has those things in it. I get it. This basic fantasy is a good way of doing that. Saving throws are the old school saving throws in basic fantasy. You have 5 categories for saving throws, and they are as follows: death ray or poison, magic wands, paralysis or petrify, dragon's breath, and spells. The way I kind of use these is, honestly, you end up using death ray and poison quite a lot. Death ray is often used for trying to avoid traps, like a pit trap or something sometimes, or like falling rocks or something like that. It ends up, that's the downfall of this, is death ray ends up kind of becoming probably more, and poison end up becoming probably one of the more important ones to have. However, I think in my head, dragon's breath can be used for like area effects. So let's say there's a trap that is going to spray a cone of fire, kind of like dragon's breath. If a pressure plate is pushed down and triggers the trap, it's going to shoot oil and fire on to the target. Well, I would probably actually call for a Dragon's Breath save at that point. So so let's read what they say here. Spells and monster special attacks will indicate which category applies when a saving throw is allowed. But in some unusual situations, the game master will need to choose a category. One way to make this choice is to interpret the categories metaphorically, as I've just specified. For example, a GM may be writing an adventure wherein there's a trap that pours burning oil on the hapless adventurers. Avoiding the oil might be considered... Look at I'm already ahead of you here. Burning oil on the hapless adventurer, though avoiding the oil might be considered similar to avoiding Dragon's Breath. Or perhaps a stone idol shoots beams of energy from its glaring eyes when approached. This attack may be considered similar to Magic Wand, or, if specially potent, a spell. The saving throw versus death ray is often used as a catch-all to save versus many of the ordinary dangers encountered in a dungeon environment. In general, saving throws are not adjusted by ability score, bonus, or penalty figures. There are a few exceptions. Poison saving throws are always adjusted by the character's Constitution modifier. Saving throws against illusion, such as Phantasmal Force, are always adjusted by the character's Intelligence modifier. And saving throws against charm spells and other forms of mind control are adjusted by the character's Wisdom modifier. The GM may decide on other saving throw adjustments as he or she sees fit. Item saving throws, area of effects such as Fireball or Lightning Bolt spells may damage items carried by characters, as well as injuring the character. For simplicity, assume that items carried are unaffected if the character or creature carrying them makes his or her own saving throw. However, very fragile items, such as paper, spellbooks, glass, physical versus physical impact, may still be considered subject to damage even if the bearer makes his or her save. In any case, where one or more items may be subject to damage, use the saving throw roll of the bearer to determine if the item is damaged or not. For example, a character holding an open spellbook is struck by a fireball spell. He or she must save her spells and save again at the same odds for the spellbook. The GM should feel free to amend this rule as he or she wishes. For instance, a backpack full of fragile items might be given a single saving throw rather than laboriously rolling for each and every item. And so saving throws are by class. So as you can see here, clerics have a different set of numbers. So like their death rate or poison at level 1 is different from a magic user's, which is much higher. So clerics have a better chance. Clerics have a better chance than thieves, but thieves have a better chance against magic wands than clerics. But they have the same against as magic users and thieves. So you can see that classes kind of vary based on what they're good at saving against in comparison to others. I'm actually surprised that death rate isn't lower for thief, considering that's kind of the catch-all for a lot of dungeon environments. And generally you send the thief ahead of you in order to find, sometimes by stepping in them, pit traps and things like that. So that's pretty interesting to me. I hadn't noticed that before in comparing all these tables, but that is the way it is. I really like these kinds of saving throws. I know some players and some people don't. They like will, fortitude, or they like using the ability scores like in 5th edition. There's something that's flavor-wise to me. It's a flavor, it's a spice it's in the way that these saving throws work that I appreciate. And with that, we are at monsters. We did it, guys. We got to monsters, and I think we're going to end this video here, and we'll talk about monsters in another video. I hope so far that this video series has been informative and that you're enjoying it. I really love basic fantasy. It's probably one of the easiest games to get into. Again, these PDFs are free and the books are printed at cost. There's no excuse that, like, even if you're a 5e person, you have no excuse to like not own these books, because there's stuff in here such as reaction rolls and things like that, morale, for instance, as well, that a lot of 5e people just don't use or don't have. I think there's variant rules in the 5e DMG that people just don't read because they don't like reading the rule books. But I think just reading some of these retro clones and older editions in general too, like if you're going over, like, get your hands on these here, the Rules Cyclopedia, or I have my 1st edition books over there. Get your hands on those if you can, because even if you don't plan on running them, the wisdom within them from these older editions are really good. It's real D&D. I feel like 5e is part of my gripe with it, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, is just that it's a little too watered down, it's a little too overpowered and in favor of players, and it forces players to kind of look at their sheets and decide what buttons can I press on my sheet to make my character do cool things, as opposed to basic fantasy or BX rules or AD&D rules, where it causes some more analytical problem-solving thinking within the player's own head as to what their character would do, because it's just a different mode of game design. But I hope that you've enjoyed these videos. Please check out my subscribe star. Use my affiliate link for TTRPG as well. Check out my game Cowpunchers. I'm going to try and be updating the PDF for that soon with some corrections that I've received from people as far as typos and things like that. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. I'm going to try and stream tonight. If I don't, or if I can't, I'm sorry. Know that it's because my child is sick, but and I would love to hang out with all of you and chat, but my 2-year-old comes first. So that's gonna do it for this video. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.